This is episode 23 of Lifestyle Locker Radio with Dr. Austin Cohen.
I see way too many people that are deteriorating now at 30, 40, 50, 60 years old that are using age and genetics as excuses for why they can't live the life that they were designed to live.
Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hen, and welcome to the Lifestyle Locker Radio, where we dive into what makes an awesome lifestyle. From relationships to money mindset, nutrition to fitness, emotional health to peak performance, we bring you on an amazing journey to unleashing your human potential. We are super excited to have Dr. Austin Cohen on the line. He's a sought-after international speaker and a best-selling author of the book Eliteness. And everybody on the line listening right now, I know you're into lifestyle, so you better get this book. It is awesome. I just read it not too long ago. He's a successful chiropractor, owns 4 offices in Atlanta, Georgia. He's a healthcare entrepreneur, right? So he's also known for taking care of numerous professional athletes in all different areas and different sports, right? And he's actually known to be taking care of the most CrossFitters out of any chiropractor around. He also has a satellite office in a CrossFit gym because they want him there. So without further ado, we got Austin Cohen coming in. All right, Locker Nation. Welcome, Dr. Austin Cohen. How we doing, bro?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Thanks for having me out here today.
I'm very, very glad to have you on. So all of you know, we've listened to his bio. We know he's a superstar chiropractor down in Atlanta. And this guy's an author. This guy's an athlete. If you've looked at his book, you've seen his biceps and this giant, strong dude. So he's got a really cool background. And I want him to give you a little bit of his story. Because when I was looking at your book earlier, it said something, and you can probably remember the quote better than I do. But, when you were young, someone said, put the bird back in the cage, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, first off, it's amazing what Photoshop can do to create great biceps, man. It's really powerful what we have with technology in today's world. But yeah, man. So when I was growing up, I used to mow my parents' lawn all the time. That was like my ritual, my tradition. I loved it. And I grew up in we had a gated neighborhood, so I never really had to deal with all these cars driving by. Well, one day, I'm out in my neighborhood, I'm about 13 years old, and I'm mowing the lawn, and all of a sudden there's a group of people that go to the field across the street and they start playing football in there. A couple girls end up showing up there, and I had my shirt off, and one girl yells at me, "Put the bird in the cage." And at first I was like, what is she talking about? I had no idea whether there was a finch or a red robin or a bluebird around me. But I realized after it took a moment when I was mowing the lawn that she was talking about my bird chest.
Yeah.
And that for me was definitely a motivating moment to start collaborating and figuring out strategies and systems I can start doing to work on my health, build some fitness, and create some muscle mass for my body. But that was a huge defining moment for me. And from that, I started, just studying people who were smarter at than I was and people who were athletes and what were they doing to get to the next level. But what I found was, and I don't know if you dealt with this as well in high school and in college, but a lot of my friends, it was a lot of usage of things they shouldn't be putting into their body that were going to negatively affect them in the long haul, whether it was growth hormone, steroidal work. And they were doing a lot of things. And when you're a male, between the ages of 13 and 21, that's very enticing to maybe want to do those things because you see them at the beach and at the pool and you see these biceps and they're all jacked. And you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to look like that. Fortunately, I never got into any of that stuff. But the 2 key factors that everyone that told me who was doing it the right way was it was all about discipline and commitment. And so I really took it upon myself in about 2005-06 to start making those massive changes. And that's when I started doing things, marathons, triathlons. I've even done 2 Ironmans. I did the Escape from Alcatraz, which is you swim across the bay. And then I got really big into CrossFit competitions as well. So, a lot of marinating and doing different things to take myself to that next level. But a lot of it came through studying other people and then the inspiration of putting the darn bird back in the cage.
Nice. So that's crazy. Swimming across the bay. I actually did see that on your Facebook feed. That is a pretty gnarly event to do, I bet, huh?
So that event, the registration is in September every year, and thousands of people register for this event. Very few get in. And you have to pay actually for the registration, and you may not even get in. So I registered in September. I found out I was getting in November or December. I got in the first lottery. So I ended up signing up immediately. A month after I signed up, a Facebook video goes viral of a seal that gets eaten by a great white shark off of Alcatraz. So it was super intense. Motivation though to not gain any weight because I wanted to like be the skinny seal. But it's a crazy experience. So at 7 a.m. you take a boat out to Alcatraz in 55-degree waters. You take a boat out. It's freezing cold in San Francisco. By the way, this takes place in June. They have 6 minutes, 2,000 swimmers and actually triathletes. You have 6 minutes to get off of the boat. So everybody is jumping on top of each other. And it's a very fast, if you want to see something inspiring, if you actually just go on YouTube and type in Escape from Alcatraz for people to see, how this whole how much this takes place. But you take this huge boat out, 2,000 people get up in 6 minutes. And I remember swimming in the bay and looking to my left and my right, not seeing a single soul. And I thought I was by myself. And it's because the waves are so big, you just can't see over the waves. But literally you're surrounded by, 1,999 people, but you can't see them because the waves are so big and so bad. So in my head, it was extra motivation because I was like, wow, I'm like the lone seal who got lost. Like I'm about to get the guy. I'm gonna be the guy who gets eaten.
Oh, God. That's enough motivation to swim.
It was a crazy experience, but it was definitely getting out of that water though, and being cold. But it was also re-energizing. So, one strategy I've recently been implementing, I know a lot of people have as well, is cold showers, right? Like that's been a big thing recently with people, is taking 30 seconds to a minute. Tony Robbins, he has a plunge pool that he jumps in 50-degree waters for a little bit just to get everything, moving and shaking and to get the nervous system stimulated. And the feeling you get when you get out of cold water, though, is really a euphoric experience, something I've never experienced before. And something fascinating that I never thought I would like, but, hey, you completed it. Yeah, so cool experience.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I've done Tough Mudders and marathons and things like that, but that's just like, I'm a shark guy, man. So jumping in the water is crazy. Just me thinking about it. So let's get back to your story. So you went from the bird that needed to go back into the cage to this evolution of a guy, as far as athletic wise, doing the right things, changing your mental game, your physical game, your physique, and actually, I want to say you didn't come at the other end. You just you're still in this, right?
Still in it. It's an evolution, right? I'm always learning this. And I I have a chiropractic clinic, and I talk to a lot of my patients all the time because, when they start seeing me, they ask a lot of questions about nutrition and fitness and exercise and all of these different things. And I tell them, so let's say they start taking chlorophyll, for instance. They're like, wow, it works really well for my body. And I always tell them, I say, hey, listen, just want to let you know, if you're starting to dive into this world of health, there's a big hole that you can be going down in this world. There is a lot of information out there nowadays, and there's a lot of good information, but it's always an evolution. It's always a learning experience. So if you're willing to do it, it's going to be great because there's just so much that you're going to learn into it. And you're right. Like I'm still learning a lot of things for my body and things I can do in order to take my health to that next level. So,
yeah. So let's talk a little bit, get into this book, right? Eliteness. It's, a simple guide to uncovering your hidden potential to becoming elite. And I know we kind of raced through your little history about your story there, but get into some of like the nuts and bolts of the things that you've either experienced or have been able to share with patients or, CrossFit athletes, since I know that's was a big thing for you. Other professional athletes too.
So some of the big things. So I was very fortunate to get this book done. And, the reason why this book got done is because what I did is I just started studying athletes, professional athletes, not people who say they're athletes who played in high school, but people who played through college and then at the professional level. And so what I started doing is talking to them about strategies and systems they were utilizing into their health. And that's how this book got put together. And we tried to chunk it down to make it so that it's easy read for any human being, and they can start in chapter 8, they can start in chapter 2. It doesn't matter where they start. So some of the biggest things we always talk about in this book, though, and a big thing for me was changing up my diet. That to me was one of the biggest things that had an impact on my life. So for me, I used to think that by eating a whole wheat bread, eating wraps, eating Nutri-Grain bars, eating cereal that was made with 9 seeds, I used to think that these things were healthy for me. And then what I realized is I started to do some research and learn about grain and bread and how this makes an impact on my gut and my inflammation levels. I started realizing it was a negative impact. And probably one of the biggest first changes I made was getting rid of bread and then start moving more towards a paleo primal diet. That for me was one of the biggest game changers for my health, in my body. I started to have better energy. I started to see better definition in my muscles. My fitness level gain started going up. Like I say in the book, I went from a 135 guy up to a 185 pound guy. A lot of my numbers in back squatting and front squats and power cleans started to go up significantly for a guy with my size who has no professional training in this sport. So making that nutritional impact was huge in the beginning. And what I had to do, though, is I had to break it down into I'm all about sustainability. So I want to do things that I can do for the long haul. So for instance, when people come to my office and they say, I don't like CrossFit, but I know a lot of people who do it and their bodies look good. It's not going to be sustainable for them in the long haul. They're not going to do it for 5-10 years because they don't enjoy it. Yeah. So I always tell people, find something you enjoy doing. You have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, it's not sustainable long-term. People don't like dieting, so it's not sustainable long-term. Yeah. But the paleo primal diet for me is a sustainable thing that I can do for the rest of my life. It's very easy. I just got to get rid of bread, grains, essentially, dairy, and sugar. I'm not 100% at it. I'm about like in the 90% category. I'm still a human being. I do love pizza once in a while.
Yeah, that was my question for you. I've interviewed other like paleo specialists and experts, and it's like being human, right?
You got to be human. And I always tell a lot of my patients what I talk to them about is I say they always want to get to the next level of nutrition. So I always tell them to start with the Whole30 challenge. Go on the Whole30, do the challenge. It's 30 days. You're going strict paleo. After that, your body would have adapted to some of these changes. Your sugar cravings will probably go down. You're going to realize that you don't need to eat bread as much as you think you need to do. And you're going to realize that bread and sugar is in everything. And so you're going to really understand ingredient list and how this whole thing works. So once they get to that, then it becomes more sustainable then for the long term about the way they eat for their body. And the gains, though, are huge because once you start to see changes in your body, then you're like, wow, this works. So then you become committed to it even more. So that's probably one of the first things that I would tell people that made a big impact on me was from a nutritional level.
Okay.
And then maybe starting for people who are newer, maybe going on the Whole30. For people who are more advanced, it was really just getting down to the basics and fundamentals of removing the grain, dairy, sugar, and going more towards the paleo route.
Okay, that's great. So that's like a big step, and I kind of figured this out because I know how you run your practice. I see how successful you are. Yeah. Systems are important, right?
Mm-hmm.
For everybody.
Big time.
Is this something that, as people are going through your book and learning and going, holy cow, look at these athletes, look what he's learned. It may seem like this huge feat to go from 130 pounds or whatever it was to 185 or 190 pounds. Yeah. Also, it's like, holy cow, I can't do that. But the people that are listening, what you guys have to realize is, he's a human being just like you. And you can do these things, but like Austin says, having a system in place where you actually can start to follow, maybe even like track, right?
Yep.
Is important.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and like one of the biggest things for us, especially as we've been developing and going along with this, is understanding that. Because I remember when I started with the sprint triathlon. Then I did an Olympic triathlon. After I did the Olympic triathlon, I was like, man, I'm done. I don't want to do anything else after this. Well, eventually as time went on, I eventually did the half Ironman. And then I was like, wow, I couldn't even imagine doing double this. And then it got into the Ironman. But the processes were step by step by step. And understanding, because and even taking a step back, when I started CrossFit in 2009, I remember being in the gym, seeing these guys do these crazy amount of pull-ups and push-ups and lifting all this weight. I had to use a band for my pull-ups. I couldn't even do one pull-up. And I remember there 6 months into it, almost quitting. And the reason why I almost quit is because I was making the biggest mistake that most people make. I was comparing myself to other people. And that was a huge mistake for me. So once I started to realize that I need to compare myself to myself, and where I was 6 months ago is a huge gain because I was able to do pull-ups. I was only able to do a few of them, but I didn't have to use a band anymore. I was able to lift more weight. So what I had to start realizing was that I need to start comparing myself to myself and stop comparing myself to other people. And that lesson actually started to move throughout the rest of my life, where I wouldn't look at other relationships and compare those relationships to mine and my wife's, because every relationship and everyone has their own issues. Stop comparing my business to other people's practices. Start comparing my practice to myself. So when I took that motto and you applied it towards all areas of life, really that was probably like a big differentiating factor for me. And I started to make these A to B steps, not A to Z steps.
Key. A to B steps, not A to Z. I think that's we all have definitely been in that place, myself,
Yeah.
getting involved in fitness. I was always an athlete, but getting into like the fitness world, it's like, holy cow, these guys are doing what? Really? And still to this day, almost 40 years old, I'll be at the gym like, how come I can't be? Nope. I gotta, if I want to be like that, essentially, I have to take the necessary steps, and it's got to start one step at a time. I can't jump the gun. Otherwise that's injury, or that's failure, instant failure, whatever it may be.
And it's so funny you say that. So, and that's probably one of the biggest things though I see in my clients, my professional athlete clients, are I study them a lot, and I actually go to a lot of their competitions. I go to their sporting events. Nothing like my Braves players. I love going to their games and watching how they perform on the field versus like when they talk with me in the office. Two completely different people. It's so funny how when they're in the office, I'm talking and just shooting stuff with them, how they're just such humble people, and they don't even act. They're like you and I. Like they don't act as if they're this like making $5 million, $10 million a year person. They're like, man, do you have anything I can do to like start lifting to gain some muscle mass? Or they're talking to me about diet and all these things that I thought that they already knew because they're professional athletes. Like, who am I? I mean, these guys are professionals.
Yeah.
But the differentiating factor though I see in them every single time when they're on that field is their mindset. That is like when people tell me they want to become professional athletes, it all comes down to the mental game. Like for instance, baseball players, they all know how to hit a ball. They all know how to throw a ball. They all can catch. They can all run just as fast. But what separates some from the others? It's the mental game. Same thing with CrossFitters as well. Everyone's just as strong as each other. Everyone has the same levels of endurance, but it's how hard are people willing to push themselves? And what we call it is, I tell them it's called that threshold. Where, for instance, Josh, you and I, when we work out and we do a workout, once we start to get tired, we may slow down a little bit. We may breathe for a second, take some breaks. They don't get that. They don't understand that. They don't have that. They go past that threshold marker because that's what professional athletes do. And so that's why, of course, maybe they're willing to get more hurt more often. Or when I was training for triathlons and Ironman, these bikers, they didn't know how to stop and turn it off. Like I would go slow around turns so I didn't fall. They just go.
Yeah.
And that's why that's why they fall more. They have accidents. They hit potholes. I never hit a pothole. I go around potholes.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are animals. So, I mean, the mindset for them though is probably one of the biggest things. And that would be more of that like Y to Z level. Like once you start to get like through this world. And that's why I tell people, if you're studying this book, one of the biggest things is you got to start somewhere that you think is sustainable. And once it becomes sustainable for your life, then you can maybe move on to the next thing. But if you start to take everything in at once, which a lot of people try and do, after a month or two, they're back where they were. Yeah. And to me, that's a failure. I'm all about action. I'm all about sustainability.
Yeah. So in your book, you have a foreword by Emily Bridgers, and for those who don't know, this is like a superstar in the CrossFit world. So give a little backstory, because the book was, what year was the book?
The book was written in 2015-16.
Okay. And so I'm sure she's had other accolades since the book. So kind of give a little story about her and like what things changed, because you're a chiropractor, and the people listening need to understand this, because you're a lifestyle guy. Really is what it's coming down to, right? You're helping these people evolve their lifestyle. So Emily Bridgers, I read the book, right? You start taking classes.
Yeah. So great story. With her, actually. So Emily Bridgers, she wrote the foreword for my book. She's a multiple CrossFit Games athlete. This girl, she was a gym dog, meaning she was a gymnast. She performed on the gymnastics team for the University of Georgia Bulldogs. She won a national championship with them, which is the ultimate level. She unfortunately ended up fracturing the lower thoracics, which is like the mid to low back area. She ended up fracturing a vertebrae down there. All the doctors thought she was done competing. Well, she starts to get into CrossFit and starts working out, taking care of herself. And I see that she's actually got a lot of potential. And this is, by the way, back in 2013. I'm like, wow, this girl's got potential. So I see her at local competitions. She goes to this event called Regionals, which is essentially, it was the top 30 athletes in the region out of almost 10,000 people. And I see her and she's getting 4th place every year, meaning she's one place away from making it to the next level, which if you watch ESPN, you see the CrossFit Games, that's the level she was close to getting. And this is out of over 100,000. This is like 200,000 to 300,000 people that are competing for this. And she would have been, one of the top levels at that. Well, I see her at a local competition, pretty much stalk her and say, hey, I'm going to take you to the next level. You're going to become my patient. if you don't have a chiropractor now, I'm going to help you get to that next level. And she said, I don't have a chiropractor. Let's do this. So this is back in, she had 2,000 Instagram followers back then. She was a good athlete. Actually, she was a great athlete, but there were certain things she was missing in her lifestyle in order to get to the next level. We started taking care of her, adjusting her, working on her hips, her spine. She had a huge alignment issue in her hips. It was like 10 millimeters off from left to right. The nervous system, of course, was not performing at its highest level because there was some minimization in there. As we started to adjust her body, get the nervous system working even better, then she's, of course, able to perform better at higher levels. That year, we started taking care of her in February. She competes at regionals in May, gets first place at regionals, makes it to the CrossFit Games, gets 6th place in the world. Then she gets invited to compete with Rich Froning and Jason Khalipa for the CrossFit Invitational, competing with Team USA against all the other countries, gets first place that year as well. So since then, she's made it every year to the CrossFit Games. She got first place. And this past year, I was visiting her at regionals back in June 1st weekend in 2017, and she got 2nd place. But because her goal right now is to peak in August, not to peak in the regionals, but it's to peak at the CrossFit Games to try and win it. So it's been a great story for the past 4 years with her.
Yeah, so this is cool. And for those of you listening, I'm a chiropractor as well, as all of you know. This is a professional athlete that was, she was on it. She was, better than 95% of the people already.
Oh, for sure.
The biggest shift or the biggest change she did was showing up in your office. Right?
Yeah, that's huge.
That was it. Like from day one to first place in regionals to go to the actual games event were adjustments, right?
That was the only thing she changed. Now, after that, what we started doing is then, because it gets more competitive year after year. So to get first place as you're getting older is tough because, 27 years old, 28 years old, 29 years old, there's these kids coming up that are like 18, 19, 20 years old. And of course, their levels are going to be much better, and stronger than the way the recovery works. So then eventually we started talking about doing some recovery stuff. So then she started incorporating, more massages, more PT. She started incorporating more nutritional habits for her body. Supplementation stuff, taking more like omega-3s and stuff like that. A complete natural athlete, by the way. And it's been interesting. She was on Men's Health and Women's Health the other day because of on her Instagram post, which, by the way, now she has over about 150,000 followers on Instagram from 2,000 a few years ago.
Less than you, right?
We're so close to each other. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But it's been fascinating to see this development and change because I was with her right before she made that level, so she got to the next level, and then to see her now to where she is. By the way, she's been coming once a week, hasn't missed an appointment since 2013. Just been an amazing person to watch that commitment level and to see how being proactive with your health. And by the way, for the listeners out there who, whatever their preconceived notion is of why someone would visit a chiropractor, she actually doesn't come to me for pain. She has zero neck, back pain. She comes to me because she wants her a couple of reasons. One, she wants her nervous system to perform at the highest level. When you work out super hard, your nervous system is being activated. And so what she wants is a clear functioning nervous system to work at the highest level. So that's one goal. The other goal is for mechanics. We do a lot of structural corrective work in our office. So she wants to make sure that when she's working out, she's not extra loading up her joints with a significant amount of stress that could increase her risk of injury. Because we've seen so many athletes come to us after they've had the injury. And what they're doing is they're just being reactive, which I know if I sit all day for 8 hours and then I go work out, there's a big incongruency of how I'm taking care of my body and working out. So I'm training like an elite athlete, but I'm not taking care of my body like an elite athlete. And that's injury prone right there. Yeah. So she got that mindset and then started making these changes. Really hasn't even been hurt over the past 4 or 5 years. It's been amazing to watch someone work at that level and how they've been rewarded for it.
That's great. That's that's good. I'm glad we were able to get our chiropractic randoms. I know I love talking and chatting with other chiropractors, what I want to do is I'd love to have you at this point. I'd love to just kind of, because you got a lot of information. People, you got to get the book anyway, but I want you to go over maybe 3 golden nuggets or 3 gold bars of information that, every person listening should maybe take do. And then I want like one specific defined action step, like information, do this.
Yeah. So I definitely think some of the 3 things are nutrition. I think is going to be essential. Okay. I think that everyone needs to get on that. Whatever it is for them, zone, paleo, primal, renaissance. I don't know what it is, but they've got to find a lifestyle that works for them and start making those habitual changes now. And understanding, though, it's going to be a learning journey throughout the process. I don't expect someone to be 100% paleo tomorrow, but maybe it's starting to get rid of dairy first, get rid of bread next. What's the steps that they're going to implement into their life that are going to start making those changes and get working on that? 2, creating a healthcare team. Who is on your team of people taking care of you? Personally, for me, I see a chiropractor between once a week to once every other week. I see a massage therapist at least once a month. I do acupuncture once a month. I do cryotherapy every Sunday. So I have these systems in place for my life that I know I'm taking care of my body. And I have this team of people that work with me to make, and I'm not a professional athlete, but I want to be 90 years old, throwing my grandkids around and playing in the pool with them. I see way too many people that are deteriorating now at 30, 40, 50, 60 years old that are using age and genetics as excuses for why they can't live the life that they were designed to live. And there's nothing more upsetting when you see someone be limited in their life, because to me, life is just so great. And we only get one of them. So why not live it to the fullest? So I'm willing to invest my money in things that are going to let me live longer and perform at my highest level versus, clothes and some of the other, and that's just the way my value system is set up. Okay.
Yep.
So that would be definitely number 2. Number 3 is the mindset game. I think that's a huge limiting thing for a lot of people. And there's a do that goes along with this. We have a lot of professional weightlifters that come in here. Like I said, we have a lot of baseball, basketball. We have all these people that come to us. And one of the key things that I feel like I've been influential on them and where I've seen some of the biggest changes is visualization. It has been one of the craziest things to watch this. And some people may be hearing this thinking, well, this sounds pretty weird. And how does this work? My basketball players, and there's studies on this, by the way. And I've had my basketball players, I tell them, I say, hey, when you're in, because some of them will go in slumps or they'll start missing shots or they should be making them. So I'll just tell them to go to these areas on the court by themselves. Don't even have a basketball and just visualize yourself making a certain number of shots at the spot. Golfers, I do the same thing with them. Baseball players, CrossFit athletes, our CrossFit athletes, when they're lifting, for instance, I always tell Emily, when the countdown starts, because they usually say 1 minute, 30 seconds, stand by. So they give them a countdown. So I'm like at the 1 minute, 30 second mark, close your eyes and visualize yourself finishing this workout, winning it. Visualize yourself on that podium. And it's interesting to see the difference that makes in a lot of people. Even like with power and weightlifters, telling them before you make that lift, close your eyes for a second and visualize yourself making that lift. I do that with all my triathlon. I mean, everything I do, I try and get that visualization in beforehand. So that would be a major do step, which sounds maybe a little hokey, but it's one of those things that you can also use it and implement it in other areas of your life. I use it in business and in personal, and it's just something that works really well for my lifestyle.
Yeah, I have to definitely agree. I grew up, as a competitive skier, alpine skier, and one of the things that my father would really say, like he goes, there was an Olympic athlete named Jean-Claude Keely. And you would see him at the top of like an Olympic race course in a snowstorm where you can't see any of the gates, and you'd see him with his eyes closed and his hands moving, and he was skiing the course. So, wow. I mean, and then for me, that really made me go from, I'd say, good to great from where I was as an athlete, as a skier. It was probably the biggest difference was that we knew how to ski. I was a good skier, but there was that little edge, which I think the visualization kind of brought you through.
And that's been good. And listen, that's been good to great for me for everything. I visualize my businesses all thriving. I visualize my relationships with my spouse and my kid being superior, and how, I visualize her coming home from school and us playing and high-fiving and doing all these great things with each other. And listen, does that always happen? No, not always. But I'm setting myself up for that success and trying to see that in everything that I do. And that's why people who are optimistic and are always looking for the good in things, they do see the good in things. And people who are always reading the news and newspapers and always following these negative things, they tend to always see the negative in life. Listen, like I said, before, we live one life. And some people may have faith that they think there's more, but I personally believe that I'm going to live one time on this earth. I might as well enjoy it and live it to the maximum. So, and it's the same for everybody. And once they get that concept of one life, then they really start to make these more bigger changes in their lifestyle, start to create more sustainability. Yeah. It's like I've said a million times, that is like the key to the game, sustainability. It is the key.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm that word. I just wrote that down before. So sustainability. But so just to finish up here,
yeah.
Just based on what you were saying, I pulled a quote out of your book a little earlier, and it says, "How you do anything in life is how you do everything in life." And
it's my motto, man.
And I think, man, just following you for a little bit here, the few years handful of years that I've known you, you definitely do. I mean.
Well, it's interesting you say that. So the other day I was I'm in this business group called EO, and it's this group of business guys. We're all together, and it's funny. One of my buddies the other day, we went running, and we were doing a 6-mile run. I haven't run in a long time. I've been doing a lot of CrossFit, so I've been staying more of 400 than a mile run. So I haven't done a huge run in a while. So it's good to see I still got it. But towards the end of the run, and we're in Atlanta, and Atlanta is a pretty hilly city. And so as we get towards the end of the run, we hit the 6 miles, right? And right at the last 100 or 200 after the 6 miles was a pure uphill towards his house. And I remember as we got toward the ends of it, he was saying, he's like, oh man, he's like, we're almost there. Once we hit the 6 mile mark, we're done. Then we can just walk the hill. And I was like, oh, I can't wait. But as we got to that 6 mile mark, I was like, Christian, how you do anything in life is how you do everything. I was like, we can't stop. We have to run the hill. We have to run the hill. So we literally sprinted the hill as fast as we could. It was probably a negative split on our times, but it just goes to that quote, because I know for me, if I would have quit early and stopped before that hill, where else am I stopping in my life and not going up the hill?
Yeah, that last 200 meters, right?
It's it, dude. And I see that all the time, where when I was training for these triathlons, I would get in the pool and we would have these classes. They'd be like, okay, guys, listen, everyone cool down with a 200-meter swim. And I remember in my head thinking, oh, I really want to get home, see my family. I'm tired. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And then saying, well, where else in my life am I stopping short? So I always use that quote literally guides my life. And for people who, I see this a lot in other people. I'll see people who join a gym, stop a gym, join a diet, stop a diet. But then they have relationship issues as well. So it's not that they have relationship issues. They have commitment issues. They can't commit. And so what I'll do is I'll tell people who, new grads from chiropractic school, or even some of my clients who are looking to take their life to the next level, I tell them, I say, hey, sign up for a 5K, 10K, marathon, half marathon, wherever you are in your life. Just sign up for it, pay for it, sign up for it, start training, because now you're just setting yourself up for commitment, and you're going to start training for something, and watch how other areas of your life, you're going to start to see success and other things showing up, because you've just committed to one thing, and then other cool commitments are going to start showing up. And so anytime I start to get myself in a lull, that's why I signed up for those Ironman, by the way, those competitions. I never wanted to do an Ironman. In fact, I hated biking. There was nothing worse than waking up on a Sunday morning, spending 6-7 hours on a bike. I actually did not like the train. I did not like the training of Ironman. And you can ask my wife this. It was the most miserable thing for me. But I did it because it took my life to the next level. Within the time of Ironman training, we expanded our practices massively. We ended up growing 2 more practices out of the original practice we have. The book ended up coming out. It was just crazy the amount of expansion that happened during that. But that was just the universe telling me, what can you handle? And so I just had to prove to the universe, hey, I can handle it, because how I do anything is how I do everything. And I show it big, and it gave it to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, Dr. Austin Cohen, from Eliteness to success in life, man, there's a lot of messages here. So thank you so much, Austin.
Yeah, man. Listen, I appreciate you having me. What you have going is a great thing. I think it's something great that a lot of people can get value on. Just keep going through the podcast. And like we talked about before, it's A to B, not A to Z. So there's going to be a lot of nuggets. You just got to, every time I watch Shawshank Redemption, man, I've seen it 100 times. I get something new out of it.
Yeah.
Now it's more like Moana and The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast. But I still get new things out of those as well when I watch them multiple times. So definitely something valuable to see. But thanks a lot, Josh. I appreciate this a lot.
Yeah. So I really want to know this. How many of you actually paused the podcast midway through, went to Amazon and purchased his book, Eliteness? I know, you can admit it. You should definitely do it if you haven't done it yet. So make sure you connect with him any and all ways. All his contact info is in the show notes. Facebook, his website, his Amazon account, so you can actually go buy that book. Make sure you connect with us on Facebook as well. That will be in the show notes. You can connect with me on Instagram. It's all there. And make sure you check out the website. It's an evolution in process, but man, we want to get you there. You can find the latest episodes of the podcast. You can sign up and actually get a free ebook called Inside the Locker. Get it. It's a $9.95 value. We want you to get it. It's free. Go get it. And also, we'd love for you to leave us a review on iTunes. Please give a 5-star. Right? Thanks a lot, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.